You're listening to Upcycling with Deb. I'm your host, Deb Colameta. I wrote a #1 best-selling book called Best Offer, Best Life. You can find more information about me on my website, thedebsite.com, or find me on Instagram and Facebook at Deb Colameta. Have you ever watched The Great British Baking Show on Netflix? Ray and I started to get into that show over the pandemic, and I'm not a baker, but I admire the things that they accomplish with the clock ticking. And I'd probably be a little more impressed if they did a show where you were making a meal with the clock ticking, with the things that you have already in your refrigerator. So in that show, they have a gold standard for the best baker or for something that has been accomplished during the baking segment that is just head and shoulders above the rest. And when that happens, one of the judges, Paul Hollywood, will shake the hand of that particular baker. It's rare. It only happens once in a while, but it is the highly coveted handshake. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the person's going to win the competition for the whole day. It's just a way to give a nod to someone who accomplished something extraordinary. And in his palm, he doesn't have a $100 bill or a 100-pound note or anything like that. He just looks them in the eye and gives them a good congratulations and tells them that they did a job well done. So it's not a monetary prize. It's basically just bragging rights and that validation that they've done the right thing. Is that something you can do with your kids? Why is it that we always run to the store to give them a prize or an item or something to recognize what they've done? When I was a little kid, I always put my whole heart and soul into whatever I was doing. And I try to still do that to this day. Whatever I'm doing, especially if I'm passionate about it, I try to put my whole heart and soul into it. It was the same when I was little with good grades. And I've talked about in previous episodes about how my parents never pressured me to get good grades or a certain kind of grade. They were just thrilled if I was putting in a good amount of effort, which I always did. So when I would come home and my report card would be having a few A's or maybe all A's, they would just say, wow, that is amazing. Great job. We're so proud of you. And they would give me tons of accolades. But I can't recall a single time where I was paid money for my efforts. But I never felt like I was lacking in anything. I never felt like, oh, gee, I got all A's and I didn't even get a toy. It wasn't like that. I did start to hear when friends said, maybe in high school or a little bit older, they would say, oh yeah, I get $10 for every A that I get on my report card. And I did sometimes, admittedly, think, I didn't get any money for my A's. But I never felt like I was missing out. Just the validation and the pat on the back from my parents and them telling me I did a great job and they were proud of me, that was more than enough. So I had been conditioned to strive for excellence without expecting to get a monetary payment of any kind. It wasn't linked to a thing. So how can we do that with our own kids? And I'm guilty of it as well. If there's a special occasion, a big meet or something, we might get a little toy or a little trinket for our kids, but I'm trying to be more mindful about that as they get older and not conditioning them to expect to get something. The act of performing well or doing something to the best of your ability and the satisfaction that comes from that is its own currency. That is the reward. So we're trying to be more mindful about doing that with our own kids. My parents taught me that the good grades that I received, that was the reward. It was the payoff for the studying that I had done. The education, the retained information, that was the reward, not $5 per A. They always made a big deal out of me when I got a great report card, but they'd always end it with, you did a great job, but I'm not surprised. We saw you working hard for it and you earned it. They saw me bringing my book bag home every day, trying to crack the books, study, doing a little bit extra, and trying my best. And that's what they rewarded. Now it seems it's more common that we give prizes or money when something good like that happens with our kids. Let's try to get away from that. It solves a couple of problems. It's actually more financially beneficial for the parent to not have to keep giving out money or buy prizes or run to the store when something good happens. And it creates space in the home because we really don't want all these trinkets and toys hanging out. We're trying to get away from that. I'm trying to get the junk flowing out of the house. What am I doing going to the store and buying these little things to bring into the house? Save it for the birthday, save it for the holiday, and do yourself a favor. You're creating more space. The next time your child does something remarkable, give them what they really want. Look them in the eye. Give them a handshake, give them a high five, and take a minute to really anchor that feeling. Tell them that you're proud of them. Tell them you love them. Notice how hard they worked. Talk about that. Everyone loves to hear about themselves. Talk about the times you caught them studying and the time where you saw them practicing in the backyard. Talk about that and make a big deal out of that and let that be the prize, the Paul Hollywood handshake or your own version, the high five, the handshake, the big hug, whatever you want it to be. Make that the reward instead of some trinket or toy they don't really want. What they want is your attention. And that's always free and takes up no space. And if you feel like it's something really big and a major accomplishment, celebrate it in a way that helps the whole family. If you have to get takeout food, rebrand the experience as we're getting takeout on Saturday night, and that is to celebrate XYZ, or that is to celebrate all of the accomplishments this week specifically, and list them out. And during that celebratory meal, which you might have been having anyway, make sure that you do something else that we've gotten into doing with my family. Raise a toast to them. Whatever glass they have, whatever's in their glass, milk, water, an occasional soda, raise it and do a cheers and do a toast and make it meaningful. And they will remember that. And they will like that. Even during a weeknight meal, if something special happens during the day, one of my kids might stop and say, hey, can we do a cheers? Can we do a toast? And it's really fun to see, what are they noticing? How are they calling out each other on good behavior? I love seeing that. Again, it takes no time. It's something special for them, and it makes the meal more meaningful. Thanks for listening to this Little Debbie. It's a bite-sized version of the longer podcast, Upcycling with Deb. My name is Deb Colameta. Connect with me on my website, thedebsite.com, and get a free downloadable guide. And follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Deb Colameta. Let me know what you think.